right, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of How to Build a Game Studio. I am Trevor Oz, and I'm joined today by the head of the studio, no longer extraordinary, Kent.
I forgot about that. It didn't take very long. Hello.
We've made sure we've with our voting power we made sure that he was not extraordinary.
Damn it.
And we're also joined by our artist extraordinaire, Moudy.
Hey, I'm still extraordinary. I'll take
How
it.
come
Hey,
he's extraordinary? What's going on here? This is
It's
bullshit.
because I like Moudy compared to you, so.
You are dead to me, Trevor.
I like you, Trevor.
Thank you, Moudy. That's really all that I'm here for, is to get your approval, as opposed to Ken's.
I feel like I'm being ganged up on here.
This is just a surprise ambush, Kent. This is
Damn
what
it.
the podcast is all about.
So it's an intervention for me,
It is an intervention.
or a roast, I guess.
Welcome to episode 11 of the podcast, the roast of Kent Gamble.
Podcast sucks. I don't like this episode. I'll be back next week.
So anyway, I thought today we could start with a little state of the studio, but in a sense, it's not necessarily about the studio per se, but about Kent's wonderful decision-making skills and deciding in the same year to learn how to adult hardcore.
Yeah.
As he starts a game studio, and then now, like right now, you're literally in the process of buying a house. So what is that like for you, trying to work on a game and then also go through this process?
It's a bad idea. Don't do it. That's all I have to say. That's it. No, basically, like, going through it, it's just really hard to kind of be in the flow as much as I was when I'm working, because I'll keep getting interrupted by like, oh, hey, you need to sign this, or hey, it's time to wire funds over to your escrow account, or, all the various house buying things that you have to do. So kind of what I've been doing recently, just to make sure I'm keeping at the same kind of cadence of work that I have been before all this, is work during the day and then go back to work basically after Genevieve and the dogs go to sleep, just so I can make sure I have the same kind of amount of uninterrupted work in a given day. But that's also made me a little loopy, so yeah, it's difficult. I think we're just about done with the process. Thankfully, it's just about wrapped up. It's just we're in that weird limbo state at the end now, where it's basically we're just waiting until somebody gives us keys to the house, and then we have to deal with moving. But yeah, I should have changed the plan around a little bit and just kind of taken 2 weeks off and come back and worked. But whatever. I like to live dangerously.
So for someone that's never bought a house, like, I mean, how did your process in that start?
I don't remember exactly. I mean, I know our lease at the place we were renting was like getting pretty close to ending, and we've been talking about it for a while, buying a new place, or not buying a new place, buying a place, like our first place. And we did a little bit of research and found out that we're basically going to be paying the same amount we were paying in rent as we would to actually buy a place. So it kind of, work notwithstanding, it worked out well to just go ahead and buy. And so we contacted the realtor. We expected to be looking a little longer than we were, but we found a place we liked, put out the offer. Everything went relatively smoothly on that front, on like getting the house, which was nice. So the only thing that didn't work out too well was the timing, because as you guys know, we're finishing up a milestone at the end of August on the game, and the end of August also happens to be when we're moving. So timing was a little bit poor on that, but hopefully we can still get everything done early this month and then have time to move.
So do you feel that you're gonna make enough progress early on to where it's not going to affect, or at least it'll have a minimal effect on the actual work on the game?
In an optimistic world, I have planned enough that I can kind of front load the work for the month. Realistically speaking, I feel like I'm gonna slip on a task or two, but I'll just make it up next month. Luckily, this isn't a milestone that like we're going to be showing anything. It's more of an internal milestone that we wanted to hit. So it sucks to ever fall a little bit behind, but that's kind of the nature of it. And I think it shouldn't impact too much kind of the long run, like the overall schedule we have. It'll just be kind of a crazy month or two until I get back into the normal swing of things.
So I think the biggest question I have about you getting a house now is what the hell is escrow?
This is the final step to becoming an adult. Once you know what escrow is, once you get an escrow account, I had to Google it myself to figure that out during the process. But basically, escrow is a third party who comes in during this process, and essentially, when we are paying like the down payment on the house, or what is called earnest money, which is like basically we put the earnest money into an account. It's kind of like good faith money, so the sellers of the house know we're not going to just flake. It goes into an escrow account, which is just some like third party over there, like an impartial party, which basically holds that money until everything goes through and it needs to go places. So that is escrow.
So essentially, it's just someone holding your money to show the other party that, hey, there's money here.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like I don't exactly know why. I mean, I guess it's just because there's so much money being moved around. Like, it's kind of the one point.
Like a security.
Yeah, it's like since that escrow account has the interest of neither has the interest of the seller nor the buyer, like as their priority. It's just kind of like a safe, neutral place for both sides to know things are going well.
So it's the Switzerland of buying a house.
It is absolutely the Switzerland of buying a house. This is the most adult podcast we're ever going to do.
So that's how you become an adult.
Yep. You get an escrow account, and then it's just like boom, you can
boom,
adult
there you
for
go.
days.
So
I'm just picturing you in like a whole Ocean's 11 cutscene, like how you're just like all wearing suits and someone pulls up phones like, did he bring the money? The guy's like, yeah. And then you're like, all right, I'll take these now. And it's like it's this whole transaction you guys are in, and like
that's pretty much it. I sleep in suits now. Like I don't wear all my gaming t-shirts. I had to burn them all. No, they said, sorry, we can't sell you a house until you wear nothing but ties and suits.
Your gaming shirts are now in escrow.
Yeah, all of them. They're all, like everything I own is in escrow. All my Xbox, I had to send that over. They're like, you'll get this back at a later date.
When you don't have to adult.
Yeah, it's kind of lame.
So when you're looking for a house, I mean, what were you looking for?
Me, luckily, I didn't have too many like major requirements. I know Genevieve had a few. For me, it was mostly, since I work from home, space for an office. I kind of needed that. And then, yeah, basically just enough room to not feel like I was in a tiny little apartment or anything like that. And no street parking because I don't want to have to deal with finding a parking spot if I'm coming home late from something. I demand either at least a driveway. So makes sense. My needs are simple.
Yeah, it makes sense. Street parking sucks.
So. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's pretty much the one thing. And this place has AC, which is nice. Like a big bonus for me. It wasn't a requirement, but it's nice to have that. It doesn't get that hot here, but it's nice for like, there's been a couple days throughout August, for example, that have been a little toasty. So having that AC is a nice little bonus.
Well, it's the hottest year ever, pretty much.
Oh man, it's cold for me. I left LA last year, so I'm pretty excited. It's been nice weather.
Yeah, I mean comparatively, yeah, I'm sure
Exactly.
it's very much a big difference. I'm sure for other people in the Washington area, they're probably like, this is hot.
Yeah, I'm sorry for anyone who was affected by the hot heatness of the hot.
The hot has arrived. All right, so yeah, I think that that about wraps us up for house hunting with Kent.
Yeah, hashtag how to adult.
Hashtag how to adult.
Adulting with Kent.
Yeah. On my YouTube channel, Adulting with Kent will be running soon. Don't worry.
If you have any adulting inquiries, please message Kent in the messages or whatever.
You guys want to go over like stocks? We can do that. We're gonna change this podcast drastically.
It's gonna take a big shift. Big shift. Less video games, more stocks.
Yeah, is that what our fans want? I'm not entirely sure about that, but that's what they want.
That's
Slow
very
down,
possible.
Kent, you're going too fast. It's too hard. I'm not ready for this.
Well, anyway, I think that'll take us to the topic that we have for this show, which is if you wanted to remake a game, because we've actually seen some bigger remakes now, including Resident Evil 2 remake, Final Fantasy 7 remake is actually happening, even though we never know if it will ever be completed, but at least part of it will come out.
That'll be based on sales, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I mean, if I were to guess, it's probably going to sell pretty well. But yeah, so we were thinking of what games would we like to see remade, like complete remakes, not just like up-resed, stuff like that. For me, I was honestly, I wish, and this is after doing a little bit of streaming, like I kind of would like to see what Oblivion would look like if it was remade. Because that game is pretty ugly now.
Yeah.
In honesty, and I know modders are trying to add it to the Skyrim engine, which will make it look better. But I would kind of just like to see like what like a studio would do, like what would Bethesda do with it, if they were to remake it, and change up the systems a little bit.
You're talking like sort of like if that game were to, let's just say, come out this year, like how the game be like for this year, right? And stuff like that. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, so because I think the actual story and everything are still great in that game. It's just the rest of it, like even the gameplay, I think still works for the most part, but everything else just kind of could use a good update, I think. That's one of the ones I was thinking of. Kent, what do you got?
So for me, I got two of them that kind of came to mind when I was thinking about this all of, starting 10 minutes ago, because I'm totally on top of things. So the first one, I think I may have mentioned this in a previous one, which I think may have been favorite RPGs of all time. I can't remember. But Shining Force 3, which is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, it came out. So the game was broken into 3 scenarios, but only the first one was ever localized and released in the West. And there's like, mods and things. You could, I'm sure, get it on emulators with English translations, whatever. But I'm kind of a purist, I guess. Like I always like to play games on their original kind of released format, like on the console or PC that they're released on. I think that's probably the collector in me, but because of that, I've only ever been able to play the first scenario of it. So I was never able to complete that full story. And so for me, I would absolutely love it if they took kind of all three scenarios of the game, remade it all into one, like Shining Force 3 complete, and then release that on, doesn't matter really what. I have access to pretty much everything, but current consoles and PC would be great. Just so I not only would be able to kind of play the first scenario that I loved way back when, but with a more modern look, but also be able to complete the actual game and plot that I never was able to finish. So that would be huge for me. I would absolutely love that to happen. And then the second one, kind of a niche title that if Jack were here, I know he'd agree with me on this one because we spent a lot of time playing this. But it was a game called Death Row. I think Ubisoft did it on the original Xbox, and it was
So it's really funny you mentioned Death Row because I talked a lot about it on the episode where me and Jack talked about original Xbox games.
Oh, I think I missed that one.
Yeah, you did. It was just me and Jack.
So yeah, I mean, I won't have to explain it too much if listeners already are aware of it, but it would be so great to have essentially that same exact concept, but released now as kind of like an ID at Xbox style game, or the PSN equivalent, like being able to go on, play online matches against other kind of squads, being able to make your own team would be really cool. Yeah, the game just really would lend itself well to kind of being re-released.
There's a lot of cool stuff you could do with it now. Like you could totally like e-sportify it.
Oh, absolutely, because it kind of had that vibe already. It was just fake, basically.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, you could you could have like some sort of league creation, like that sort of thing. Like I think someone could do something really awesome with it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the kind of mixture of, it's got that sports base, but it's also got the kind of crazy combat and over the top kind of dystopian attitude to it that I don't really play sports games, but I absolutely loved it. So I think it has a pretty wide appeal to different people.
And I think they could give the characters a little bit more give some more creative freedom, have more license with like the teams, and actually like in a way do something along the lines of like obviously not play the same way, but like Overwatch or Apex or League of Legends, like that sort of thing, where you have like actual characters on the teams.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So Ubisoft, just give us the license to Death Row, because like I kind of want to make this game now.
Yeah, sure, let's do that.
Yeah,
I have enough time to make a second game at the same time as making this first one. Why not?
Yeah, what's really? Who needs that?
Exactly. I have enough caffeine. Well, actually, I have caffeine less in the house right now. I need it. Somebody send me caffeine.
I mean, they could, like Amazon's a thing, so that's definitely true. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. And then also thinking back on Shining Force, I'm surprised with how much nostalgia and like bringing stuff back is a thing right now. And games like Fire Emblem are popular right now. That Sega hasn't tried to bring back like Shining Force.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what the kind of licensing and legality side of stuff looks like. Kind of what I've been hoping will happen is, they've released, actually a couple of times they've released the Genesis collection. I really was hoping that at some point we would see the Saturn collection, which would have at least the first scenario that got released on it. And then that might drive interest to kind of re-releasing the entirety of it. But I have not seen anything indicating that they're planning on that. So who knows?
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I'm just surprised they haven't looked back at that series and tried to do at least a new one. Because I think maybe the last one was maybe on PS2.
They
Did they do one on PS2? I could have swore there was one.
They did some Shining games, but I don't think they
But
did
they
any
weren't
of
the
the
same.
Force games. Yeah, because like there's actually been a ton of games in the Shining series. So like the earliest one I can remember is Shining in the Darkness, which was a Genesis game. Maybe other platforms, but at least I played it on Genesis, and it was like a first-person dungeon crawler style.
Okay.
But yeah, they did like Shining. Maybe it was Shining Force Neo, I want to say, but it was like it kind of had an action spin. It wasn't like an actual tactical RPG like I wanted. So the last real proper Shining Force, at least that I'm aware of, was on the Saturn.
Interesting. It'd be cool to see a new one of those.
Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with that. I mean, you know me, anytime I can get my hands on any kind of tactical game, I'm happy.
Yeah, definitely. Moudy,
Mm-hmm.
what do you got?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the idea of essentially the esports thing because, well, I do have two games, but one of the games really is based on that sole factor that I think that there are actually a lot of old games that if they were in some brought back, I think just the fact that the internet is now a thing when it comes to like playing video games could really give these games like a new life in this modern age. And the one that really struck a chord with me back when I was a kid to now is that I'd love to see is a Bushido Blade. Did you guys ever play that game?
Oh yeah, I remember Bushido Blade.
Yeah, I never did. I mean, I know what it is, but I've never played it.
Yeah. So for people, yeah, I think it'd be so much fun, especially being like an online game. But for those who haven't heard of the game, Bushido Blade essentially is the story of like variety of like essentially sword wielding characters, and usually it's like a drama of like power and struggle and things like that. That played to a lot of the Japanese, I guess like stories. But the thing was really cool was every character had a unique sort of weapon, like a melee weapon, and they would even introduce certain people who had guns. But the best part was the whole game was based on a very like at the time very realistic like damage, I guess, ability. So like if you were fighting someone with a sword, and let's say you were able to like slash him, but you missed the torso but got the hand, you would render that hand like unusable. So the other player would have to force you to use the sword with only one hand, and you could like cut their legs and wound them, or even with like a one slice, like instant vital like attack. So being like, obviously the graphics and the gameplay was like made to like fit nowadays. I honestly feel like this is that same experience I have like if you ever watch a game like it's like Fortnite or PUBG where there's just anticipation. You just don't know how this is gonna go down. And the best part is like when you think go one way, it's that thing of like, oh my god, the guy got the guy's legs. There's nothing he can do. So maybe the guy like goes down, and before you know, he just gets him right in the stomach. I don't know. And I really feel like that would leave a lot of room for tournaments, essentially like the online esports kind of. Essentially, I'm thinking like equivalent to like a Street Fighter or a Tekken. But I also think it also has room to, because they would literally give you a giant stage where there was no time limit, no life bars, just you the two characters, and there's no UI literally, and it would just be you guys until one of you wins. So I feel like if they even introduced the idea of like I wouldn't call it, I guess, battle royale, but it would be interesting to even introduce the idea of battle royale, like last man standing or last samurai standing. I think would be a really fun game now. But the other game is more of just I think it's one of those things like I would love to see this game handled with today's graphics essentially, and even introduce like how it would play today is the Legacy of Kain, that series. I would absolutely love that game just to come back.
Hey, Moudy, why'd you steal mine?
Oh, did I steal that? I'm sorry.
Oh, man, that's rude.
No, it's okay. I was totally gonna say that though.
Yeah, there's always like rumors that they're going to end up making another one, but they never actually get anywhere with it. But I think we're all in agreement that those would be great to come back.
Yeah, and dude, just like I'm just trying to imagine like what it would look like when he opens his little scarf to like steal the souls. Like that would probably look so gnarly. And again, just because yeah, and I still remember the story being so like it was one of those moments back in the day where I think, games was very much in an infant's like state where, gameplay is still one of the important, obviously it's an important factor, but it's during the time when I feel like the idea of narrative or cinematic, the experience of the game was still being, fleshed out. And I honestly think it was pretty ahead of its time. But now that's very much a very valid approach to video games. Like, you have the Uncharted series, and I mean, many games tap into the idea of cinematic just to get you immersed. I just feel like, yeah, that story is just waiting to be done in this medium again.
Yeah, I think they could flesh it out like so well, and I could just see it on a modern console, like how cool it would look. I mean, not even the Soul Reaver games, but even the Defiance stuff, and like they just had this whole like universe with Soul Reavers and vampires and all that I think would work well in a like seeing a modern complete remake of that. So
yeah, and I do, and I remember like it definitely had and I truly just think the idea, like you're saying, is quite unique interpretation on the whole like vampire idea. And I think it's one of those ideas that definitely I think would stand the test of time. It's just a matter of like, executing on that, or whoever wants like could do that. And as a game, because I always feel like it goes without saying that the gameplay has to be as exceptional as the story always. That like that story lends itself to the idea of having a really excellent combat system, and the multiple abilities that he could have, like even the puzzle solving to some extent. So please bring back that. That's why I just want to play it again.
I feel like Rocksteady would do a pretty sweet Legacy of Kain game.
yeah, I can see that, but they'll be stuck making Batman games forever now.
Probably.
So, until they don't sell.
That's true.
But yeah, no, I think Rocksteady would make a good studio for that. Even like Crystal Dynamics, I think would do a good job with that.
Yeah, him doing that. Yeah,
wasn't Legacy of Kain an Eidos game? Was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. So, I mean, at this point, that stuff's all owned by Square Enix. So,
yeah.
So it'd be cool to see like a Crystal Dynamics or something get a shot at that series. And I think they could bring a new, unique take to that old thing, and make it new again. Essentially,
yeah, give it the Tomb Raider experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it worked for Tomb Raider. So
yeah, I loved all three of those.
Tomb Raider, they were so good with like also like with that said, like Tomb Raider was excellent. Like they were really good at executing like that groove. Like they knew how to push it to like the brutality. Like you remember just like the death scenes, like they like like I think they know when it comes to like Legacy of Kain, they definitely can do that gruesomeness. Like it's gonna be there.
Yeah, I agree.
I just remember now getting like a pipe like running right through her face and stuff like that. Like shrapnel. Say what?
I said poor Laura.
I know. I was trying to grab the branch, I swear. I just missed it. Like, oops, there she goes.
It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
So do you have anything left, Trevor, that Moudy didn't steal?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that. Like I would love to see an updated, just because I would like to see it with upgraded graphics, like a Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Just because the story in that game is so good, like I would like to see it modernized. But really, I mean, I think the only other things I can think of are just like other big games, like I would love to actually like enjoy like Morrowind. So I would like for that to be modernized. Um, Stuff like that, but no, I don't think I have anything like big. At least that I can think of that would have like a really huge overhaul.
Yeah.
Is there anything like just like apart from those, is there anything else just like sort of like as just like a fan or just something you just wish like even it can be like one of those things like it's a personal thing, it doesn't have to be like you think it's appropriate or anything, it's just something you would like to see other than those?
I'm trying to think because I mean a lot of stuff that like I would have said has kind of almost come back in a way like you
I
look
know,
at stuff
right?
like you look at I mean you look at like hey I would like them to modernize like the classic Sonic game, but they did that with Sonic Mania. Or like it's like man it'd be cool to see Toe Jam and Earl come back, and then they did that. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like a lot of those like touchstones have already been done. Like I mean they, you know, anything Nintendo like they iterate on their stuff constantly, like every generation. So there's always like a new different way. Although
Wait for it.
I know,
For
right?
it.
I'm like,
um it would be cool to see like maybe some of the old you know what I really want? I just want a new Advance Wars.
yeah, I like that.
Wargroove kind of scratched that itch for me.
It does a little bit, but it's still not quite the same.
Yeah,
But
I agree with that. Although,
Wait,
do you want a remake of that, or do you just want a sequel?
I just want a
That's the
sequel.
that's
Like
the
honestly, like I don't necessarily need a remake, but I mean, hey, if they wanted to remake one of the ones on a Game Boy, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
so
speaking
I was
of.
gonna, oh, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, speaking of Nintendo, that made me think one game that 100% should get a remake, because the game was amazing, but by today's standards, aside from the obvious graphics, but the controls are going to be pretty clunky when playing it, would be Eternal Darkness.
Oh yeah,
That would be amazing to get like the full remake treatment, keep the same story and everything, but
Is that the
overhaul the
GameCube?
graphics.
Is that the GameCube game or no?
Yeah, the
yeah.
GameCube game.
Mm,
That was
Yeah.
like a horror one, right?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, that was
yeah. It's a
dude,
good
that
one.
was that was a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be, and there was never. I think there was. I don't know if there was like a Kickstarter. There was some kind of deal where they were trying to make like a spiritual successor, but I don't think it ever went anywhere.
Yeah, it's all the controversy that surrounds Dennis Dyack, I think, kind of kept that from becoming a real thing,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Is that like creator or something?
Yeah, like because there was
I mean,
stuff
you
with
don't
like
have to-
yeah, I mean not to go. I mean there was stuff that like happened with him and Epic over the Unreal Engine, and they were suing each other at some point.
Let's get Eternal Darkness remade as an Epic Store exclusive.
Everyone will love that.
Oh
There we
yeah,
go.
the internet loves it.
Meeting of the minds.
I actually don't even know who would own the rights to Eternal Darkness at this point, because I think the studio went under, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
So yeah, I
So
have
yeah,
no
I'm
idea.
not sure who actually does either. It's it's tough with a lot of those older games, you know, like
Hmm.
because there are some out there that would be like really cool to see a sequel or some or anything done to them, but you know they're either like in rights hell or you know abandoned somewhere, or like I mean I've heard stories of literally companies not knowing they own the rights to this, and then like they find like a random box in a filing cabinet, and they're like, oh yeah.
Oh, snap! That's where that was.
So
Legal
it's
stuff, man.
so yeah. Yeah, I think that covers it for me. Unless you guys have anything else that you can think
I
of.
mean, I always, unfortunately, to say this, I know this. I always have a list. So if Ken has anything, go for it, man. But I'll just do it afterwards. I can just kind of go like name them off really quick.
All right, Moody, let's hear your rapid fire list of everything you would like remade.
Okay, can I just start with this cat, because this is not a game that exists, but it's one of those games, like, if I just want to try to do like the fan thing, I would absolutely love them to do is
Can't remake a game that doesn't exist. Doesn't count, Moody.
I'm totally gonna say it anyway. I gotta say this one because I still think I just had to throw it out there thinking that something's going to happen. Like, so Nintendo owns obviously like characters like F1, like with Captain Falcon, and I just wish, because I truly believe this would, I really believe that this could be like an amazing game, would be if they essentially took the idea and worked with Platinum Games, and essentially you take what Bayonetta was, and you're just like, what if we made a Captain Falcon game just like Bayonetta? I would I would just die to play a Captain Falcon game that played like a Bayonetta game.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say that you really wish that Nintendo would take a game where they took all of their main characters and put them into a fighting game. I was going to be like, dude, Smash.
That'd be like fighting ever. I've been living on a rock, but it's all worth it. I swear. I came up with this brilliant idea. No one's ever heard of it. Yeah, no, it's like, but honestly, that would be really, I thought would be a really cool game that doesn't exist, but would be so. I feel like it has the opportunity, just because Nintendo and Platinum, I see that they kind of work a lot together. But I'll say this. Okay, these are two actual games. I would honestly just love to see id Software totally make, like, literally remake the original Doom in like the amazing graphics that the new Doom is coming out in. Like, literally, that story would be an amazing game, I think. And it would just be one of those things like,
Basically Doom 2016, except but with a different story.
yeah, and also just like, it's with the today's, like, because the original one is still like, it is still fast, but like with the new mechanics of how fast, and now they're showing the hook shot and all these things, and essentially it's just like to essentially go through that entire experience, but like with like amazing graphics and like the amazing partners they have now. And their soundtrack is so good. The guy who redid the soundtrack, dude,
It definitely gets you pumped up to kill
yes,
that's for sure.
And the other game, I don't know if I wanted to stay as an arcade game, but I could totally see it being like just an arcade shooter like it was, or they take it down that like scary route, which would be, I would love to see House of the Dead remade some way or somehow. You remember those games?
That's
House
a
of the
good
Dead?
one.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really great idea, actually.
I will never forget the first time I beat the Magician in House of the Dead 2 on the Dreamcast, because that guy was
Yeah.
a bastard.
Yeah, I still remember, I can't remember which of it was one or two, but the dude like who does like a dance, he has a giant like knife hand, and just like he comes at you, you have to shoot him in the heart. I'm like, stop moving, dude. He's just like cha-chaing his way towards you, and he's going to slash. I'm like, crap, this guy's salsa is too good. I can't handle it.
I mean, really, I want them to remake one of those games, but like keep the same voice acting.
Oh, absolutely. You have to have that classic line of "suffer like G did." It was like almost a question, but not quite. Like the little flying demon guy didn't really know what he was talking about.
Oh, my English is good because he's like, I've been practicing in the demon world, and like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I always play those games when I go to an arcade. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right. Default, must.
They could almost like Resident Evil-fy one of those
Yeah,
and make it
and
more less of an arcade game and more of, something like a Resident Evil type.
yeah, and I'm just torn because like I said, like I would totally love the, like you said, it's just like the visuals just stellar for today's standards, and it's kind of like you said, it's the game you remember. And obviously it would be a little bit different just to kind of like for everyone who's played it, it'll be like, have maybe you'll have more different approaches or something. But then at the same time, I was also just thinking like, I love how, unfortunately, like, the Silent Hills that Hideo Kojima was working on never like, end up happening. But it was like, it's Silent Hill, but it's like not the way you ever thought it was going to play, but it totally recaptures that like that fear, And I
I'm
just love that it was like,
skeptical.
did
Got
you
my
ever play?
eye on.
PT was so creepy, dude.
It was all right. I know I'm like super minority, but it just wasn't Silent Hill for me.
Oh,
But that actually makes me think they should redo Silent Hill
yeah,
as like basically give it the Resident Evil 2 remake treatment.
Dude, Silent Hill 2 is still the greatest survival horror game of all time, and they absolutely need to do an awesome remake of it so that people can play it again and go, "Oh yeah, that's why the series was so good."
Mm-hmm. Did you play all of them?
Yeah, I think the only one I have never played was I think they remade the first one on like PSP or something.
I believe you're right. Yeah.
I did not play that because I did not have a PSP, but I played all the mainline ones that ever released on like a console.
Yeah, no, yeah, like it's funny. Like you said, they should totally bring those games back, and
Yeah.
with all of their visual glory. By the way, anyone who wants to just Google Silent Hill 3. That game still looks amazing. I'm always blown away every time I see like that character. I can't remember her name now. The mother.
Heather?
Yeah, she looks. It's just it blows my mind how good the graphics are still for that game. But like just to see it come back now or something like you said. Oh, dude, now I'm sad. I just want to play that game. Play that.
They did the HD remasters of 2 and 3 for
Yeah.
I think 360 and PS3. They weren't remakes, but I played through them and it was nice to have at least the HD update for them. But yeah, it just makes you think of like how awesome would it be with, better control scheme, updated graphics, like.
Yeah, like if it got the full like Resident Evil 2 treatment, like
Exactly.
like that'd be really cool. It just makes me think of like some like horror games almost from that era, like or even the PS2 era, like stuff like weird stuff like THQ Nordic. Why don't you buy The Suffering
Oh yeah, the Suffering was pretty awesome.
and do something with that, or like Psyops?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like it like Psyops just had like a really interesting premise, like, and it was just fun. Stuff like that. Like I'd like to see something like that, but I don't think I just don't think those games would sell, unfortunately. But
Probably not, but yeah. There are, I think it's Big Ben Interactive. I want to say it was. I read an interview where they were talking about they really wanted to become like the number one kind of AA/ mid-tier publisher in the world. To which I don't think it got that much press coverage, but like me personally,
they just bought
I got
Spider.
really excited. So yeah, like that's cool because there's a ton of those kind of like. Usually they were unpolished. They were like nobody knows about them, but there's a ton of those kind of hidden gems in that area, in that kind of like somewhere between indie and AAA, somewhere between like super low budget and super crazy high budget. Like a lot of gems in that area at the time. I would love to see that come back.
Yeah, but, like that the PS2, Xbox, GameCube generation had a lot of that stuff. Like a lot of it.
They really did.
And I mean, just thinking of like gems and stuff, like there's a lot of like smaller like, because I just think of a studio like Frogwares who did those last couple Sherlock Holmes games.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually really good.
Yeah, I've been my thing recently. I've been trying to like purchase a lot of those types of games that kind of support them. Like I may have mentioned it on a previous episode, but I played through Fade to Silence, which was like a kind of AA kind of mid-tier game. It definitely had some bugs and some rough around the edges things, but it was really cool, a unique kind of world and story. And yeah, I think it was like $30 or something. I picked it up and I was like, oh, this is great. Like, glad I could purchase it and play it. Hopefully they find enough success to continue doing things like that.
Yeah.
Or there's a company called Spiders, which does a bunch of RPGs.
They did Technomancer and
Exactly. Mars Warlogs.
Yeah.
All kind of set in the same world. And it's another one where they're like, every time I play one, I'm like, hey, this is really good. Like, you know, again, rough around the edges, like clear they didn't have the AAA budget, but like what they did was pretty great. So
yeah, there's a lot of good, interesting developers out there that I don't think people may necessarily know about. So yeah, I like supporting those too. When I can.
Cool.
I mean, I guess it's good. Then I guess we should give them shout outs like that. I'm sure. Hopefully that helps. You know.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a massive audience, but we're growing, and if one person checks them out, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. Well, I think that'll do it for us this week, guys. Again, thank you, Moudy and Kent, for being on the show this week.
Yeah, of course.
No problem, yeah.
And we'll be back. Again, thank everybody for listening. We appreciate you listening. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, be sure to email us at socialmedia@winterborngames.com. We will see those emails. If we get enough of them, we may start reading them on the podcast. If you have any reader questions, and it's stuff that we're able to answer.
Yeah.
If you,
it is worth mentioning that we had a couple requests for future episodes that people thought would be interesting, or like they wanted more information on a topic we kind of covered before, and we're actually, I believe, planning on implementing or recording. Sorry, I got code on the braid. Recording a couple of those. So if there is anything that you thought was particularly interesting, write in and let us know, and we can almost certainly get more info on it.
Absolutely, yeah, we would love to provide more information as we go through this, as we try to continue to find topics to talk about on the show, at least while we're working on a game that is still very secretive. But yeah, but again, we do thank you for listening. If you have the opportunity to go on iTunes and rate us and review us, we would appreciate that very much. It helps other people see this show, and that could help us get more listeners, get more feedback, get more questions, and all that good stuff. And if there are any platforms that we're not on, because we are currently on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify, if there's anything else that you listen to stuff on normally that you would like to see our show on, also just email us again for that, and I'll check it out and try my best to get us on those platforms. And again, thank you very much, and we'll be back next week.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Oh, and Tony Hawk, last one. I just remembered that.
You can't just shove things in the end like that, Moody.
I looked at my list. I was like, oh no, I forgot.
Oh no, bring back Tony Hawk.
Yeah.